disable the mic due to the reason that I'm recording this session, and it can end up being too loud when I actually stream it online. Okay, so that means everyone's muted. There is a chat feature though. As we go through the program, you feel free to ask me any questions. I may not see it till the end, but I'll make sure to answer everyone. Hey, if you guys can hear me, just let me know, please.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, so what we're going to start with is a report that I already have the subject information filled out for. We're using Total. In the future, you can use whichever form filling software we're compatible with. So what you would want to have filled out when you initially start Appraiser Genie is you need the subject information filled out. You should be able to see my screen. The majority of page 1 you don't have to have completed, but you need the address, city, state, county, and zip. If you can fill all that out, you definitely need the address and the zip code. You can go down to this bottom section or towards the middle, the improvement area. Try to fill that out as much as you can. We don't expect every single box to be filled out, but the more information you give us, the better the results will be, of course. Page 2, you do need the subject address, of course, which will transfer, and the subject information. This column you see here actually will be transferred in to Appraiser Genie, so make sure you have this info filled out. If you don't initially, you can add it inside Appraiser Genie at a later point. If you have a sketch, go ahead and complete that as well. I didn't complete a sketch for this, but you'll want to do that beforehand. Okay, so through Total, what we're going to do is to actually access Appraiser Genie, you're going to want to click on this dashboard button in the top right-hand corner. Now I already have it installed, so it's going to say Appraiser Genie here, but if you have not installed it, all you have to do is click on the Total Store icon here and click on Launch, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so towards the middle of their page you have Partner Products. If you click on Appraiser Genie, you have options to the left. Of course, take advantage of the free trials if you've never used it. And when you click on that, it's just going to ask you to enter your a la mode information. So whatever that is, you just enter it here and click on Sign In. So you can close that, and when you actually close your dashboard and relaunch it, it's going to say Appraiser Genie. It'll say download though. So you'll want to download that, and then when you come back into your dashboard, it'll say launch. So it's very easy. It's a very small file that you have to install, and it will always be shown here. Now typically before we start Appraiser Genie, my recommendation is you create a MLS neighborhood search. We don't have direct integration with your MLS system. So basically what you do as an appraiser when you use our software is you log into whichever MLS you use. You create a neighborhood search based on the subject property that you're using in Genie. You don't need to narrow it by site, age, GLA, none of those parameters, because you'll do that in Appraiser Genie. So you can just create the neighborhood boundaries by your subdivision, high school district, whatever parameters you normally would use, you just do that. Now if your MLS hasn't been set up yet, then please email mls@appraisergenie.com and one of our MLS techs can help you get started. It's a very easy process. We basically need to create a template, so when you do export your neighborhood search, it's in our format. So for example, this is an example of a neighborhood search. I basically looked up this address, 2619, saved it to my computer, and you'll notice there are column headers. We just need them in a specific ordering. We start with status and so forth. So if you try to use it and it's not in this ordering, most MLSs will give you an error. There are some you can export. We don't require any setup for, but you'll need to email our MLS department to find out which ones. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to click on the dashboard again, and we're using this report, so we're going to click Launch. Okay, now I have the report open, so we're going to choose the currently open report. Make sure if you have more than one report open, for whatever reason, you're clicking on the one that you want to use for the Genie. So I only have one open. We're going to click OK. Hey, now Appraiser Genie will launch on its own. It's going to launch with whatever browser you have set on your computer as your default. We recommend Chrome. It's just a better browser, but you can use whichever browser you would like. We don't recommend older versions of Internet Explorer though. Okay, so when you launch Genie, you guys will not see this page unless you've already registered and have already used Genie. So I'm going to take you what you'll see initially when you install it. Hey, so when you're a new user and the first time you use Genie, you're going to have a pop-up. It's the Terms of Service Agreement. Within that pop-up box, you just scroll to the bottom of it. You will have to enter your initials and agree. Once you do that, you're going to see this page behind it. So the way you know where you are in Genie is at the top here, there's a tab that's highlighted in blue. It says Defaults. Whichever tab is highlighted indicates the page you're on. And you're taken to this page the very first time you install the software, basically so you can set up any defaults that are related to your reports. You can come back and change anything you do here. You just use these forward and backward arrows, but I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so what you do on this page is, of course, we have our software set. If you don't use a la mode in the future, if you use ACI, Appraiser, ClickForms, you just click whichever software you use. Now these sections here are broken up into concessions, age variance, site size variance. These will apply to your reports. If you're not sure how to use these areas, there are blue question marks. You can click on them and they will further explain it. For example, concessions, I have 3 here. So that means in our area, the maximum percentage of concessions that are customary is 3%. So if that's usual and customary, 3%, and the comparable has 5%, then we're only going to adjust for that difference of 1%. Now you may or may not be able to use this area. Some people it's 2 to 3% in their area, or concessions are not reported. If you just want to adjust for all concessions, just leave a 0 there. You don't have to enter something in all of these fields. They may or may not apply. Same thing with age variance. You just enter the years of variance below. No adjustment will be made. So if the comparable age is whatever the age is, if you put a 5 here, we're going to take that subject's age from the comparable, the first 5 years. We won't adjust for those first 5 years difference. If you leave a 0, we're just going to adjust for all age variance from subject to comps. Site size is very similar. You enter the percentage of variance below which no adjustment will be made. So if you can put a 30% there, 15%, whatever you want, or you leave a 0 and we just adjust for all site size. This here, subject previous sale years prior, comp previous sales years prior, we have a 3 and a 1 defaulted there. You of course can change these as well. Minimum square foot to adjust, I put 100 there. So the first 100 square foot difference, we are not going to adjust for. If you are an appraiser who usually doesn't adjust for the first 50 square feet, you can put a 50 there. If you leave it blank, we're just going to adjust for all square foot difference. So I'm going to put 100. In these next sections, they have a checkbox. Basically, effective age, we can provide that for you, reconciled value, and the calculated adjustments below. If you don't want us to complete any of this for you, just deselect it. For example, if you'd rather provide your own effective age, just uncheck the box. This next section, National Association of Home Builders, this national average is displayed there. you can right-click on this link and open link, and that's actually going to take you to the National Association of Home Builders, the cost of constructing a home, which is a national average. So that's there for your review. You don't actually have to do anything with it. This next section, MLS acronym, we use interest, so that is why this is set here. All you're going to do is enter the abbreviation for your MLS acronyms. Let's say you're San Antonio, we would just put SABOR. Whatever the acronym is, you can enter it there, and you can provide up to 8 different ones. Just make sure that if you do end up in the future using an additional MLS, you'll still want to get with us, and we need to make sure that it's configured so it works properly. And once again, you can email mls@appraisergenie.com. And this verification source here, I'm going to go back and forth between the report so you can see where I'm actually where this comes from. So we're going to go back down here. We're going to go to page 2. Right here where it says verification source, you can determine what you want us to auto-populate there. So as you see right here, we're going to put the county assessor and the doc number there. There are actually up to 3 things you can put there. If you want other than county assessor doc number, let's say you also want us to put the list price, you can select that there. Just keep in mind we're constrained by the character limit in these boxes. So if the assessor information ends up being a lot of information, the other 2 we put there may not pull over, so just be careful how much you put in these boxes. So I'm going to kick this out. I just click on the blank space. Now there's a drop down. So the drop down indicates to you these are things we can pull and put in that field. If you were to type your own information here, if we can't retrieve it, then we can't put it in the report. Okay, same thing with rights. Under property rights, we put fee simple there in the grid for a default. Most of the time we can't retrieve that information, so we'll just automatically put it in there. Or you can put leasehold, or you can put something of your own, whatever you want there. Generally, most people put fee simple. Same thing with location, the location rating and the location factor. That's also going to automatically export to your report in this field here. You can change this from neutral, beneficial, adverse, or one of these view factors here, or location factors. Okay, view, same thing. View rating, you can decide what you want us to automatically default. Functional utility, energy efficiency, porch and patio. We abbreviate it the way you see it entered here, but if you don't like the way that looks, you can put something like this. Doesn't matter. You can type whatever you want there, and then it's just going to export back to the grid however you type it here. So I'm just going to put that back. Okay, so these last 3 sections here, blank row 1, blank row 2, and blank row 3, that's going to refer to these 3 blanks at the bottom of your report where you can type in fireplace, upgrades, pool, whatever generally you want to put there. A lot of this we can just pull for you and enter it in the report. It does need to be from these drop downs. So if you guys put something in there that's not listed in here, if we don't have a viable way to actually retrieve that information, it'll put the column header, but it's not going to pull the information. So just keep that in mind. Generally, you want to select something from the menu. So a good example is I have blank row 1 as fireplace. So just like you see it here, blank row 1 is going to be labeled fireplace. There's the subject, and then we're going to put the comparable properties fireplace count in this field here. You can put up to 3. So if I wanted fireplace, in-law, and list price, they would all go into the row 1, but keep in mind you may run out of space, so we recommend probably no more than 2. The separator field, it just means how do you want us to separate it. Do you want us to use a dash, a comma, a semicolon, whichever you want here. This is going to go in blank rows 2, which is upgrades. As you see here, I have upgrades. And blank row 3, I have pool, which you see here as pool. Hey, now this next section, public record verification. Later in the Genie, when you're choosing the properties you want to use for your report, you can set a default here. For example, for site, if you know generally the realtors don't actually enter the site information, when we pull it, it's going to be blank if MLS doesn't provide it. If you would rather us just default to assign public, then you can click on public, and when you choose those comparables, we're automatically for site going to go with public records. Same thing with age. If you want us to use MLS, because generally they list it, you can use MLS. Stories. We do have something called our peer database. When you run these comparable properties through Appraiser Genie, we will store them as a reference, so you can click on peer, and if it was reported in Appraiser Genie for stories, then we'll use that value if you click that. Lastly, if you leave Ask Me is a pretty good idea if you're not sure if MLS or public would have it, or if you're not sure that other appraisers have used those comps. You can leave it on Ask Me. Later in Appraiser Genie, on the comp search page, or the side-by-side, excuse me, you can just see all sources, and then you can just go through them individually. So if MLS isn't the greatest or public, you might want to just leave it on Ask Me and just manually go through them. Pretty good here with public, so we're going to click on public. Okay, now this last section that may not make sense immediately, the reason why is later, as stated, when you choose from your narrowed comp search the comparables you want to use for your report, you can define how you want to see that information displayed. There's a lot of information here. So for example, let's say subdivision is really important to you and you want to automatically see that information so you don't have to scroll all the way over on that page. Let's say subdivision was down here. You'd have to scroll pretty far over before you saw subdivision information. So you can move these around. You just click on it and then move up or move down wherever you want to see it. We have GLA towards the front, subdivision, site, age. So I'll come back to this later so you can get a visual on how this works. Okay, so we'll scroll back to the top, and anytime we make a change, we're going to click Save. Okay, so when we clicked on Save, of course, anything we did enter saved. There are additional things you can do here. You can set your own abbreviations. As you see, there are already abbreviations entered because I've used this many times. We use UAD compliant abbreviations, but for example, for Cool Central, let's say you don't like CAC and you want it to show as CENT, whatever the abbreviation is, you can enter that there, and then that's what we'll put in the report, whatever abbreviation you want. Or you can leave this here. Comments are pretty cool as well. These are really defined. We can fill out most of the comments on your report, and this tells you what type of comment. This goes under the subject previous. I actually typed over this comment. It does say a lot more than this, but it will say whatever you put here. So for example, this 1004MC, under the 1004MC, we're going to leave a concession comment. And you see there's some verbiage here. This will automatically be exported into your report. And anything in brackets, that's information we're pulling for each report. So that's the subject MLS number, sales quantity, concessions percentage, etc. So you can erase these, you can write your own, you can add on to them. Something that's probably beneficial to you is under each comment you have a menu. It says Quick Pick, and let's say you wanted to add on to the information we're pulling. You can hover over 1004, and let's say you want something regarding 7 to 12 months. If you just hover over it, and if you click on this, we're going to put the list stays on market in brackets like these, and then we'll pull that information for every report. So these are pretty powerful. You just have to use the predefined ones we have, or you can come in here and create your own. Some people, if you use a template and you already have comments, you can just copy and paste them in here, and then we'll still put them in the report like you normally already have them. Okay, definitions. Definitions is literally a page of definitions. So if you want more information on extraction land value, you can refer to this. This will actually be exported to your work file, so you'll have a list of this as well. Graphs, we can actually complete up to 10 different graphs for you. Very simply, all you do is click on this drop down. You can either use month, quarter, year graphs, and then you choose from the radio dial button which type of graph. So for example, if I wanted a quarterly graph based on the percentage of sales with concessions, this is going to be one graph here. Same thing, this is graph 2. I just choose which type of graph and the information I want related to that graph. So that's number of distressed sales. I actually already have a bunch set here, so when we export back into total, I will show you a few of these. So I'm not going to save. Okay, password. If you click on password, this relates to Appraiser Genie when you initially logged in and created an email and password. If you need to reset that, just type in the new password, repeat it, and then click save. Now the little video button, you can watch that video. It'll help you out with this default page here. So you can always click on that as well. Alright, so what we're going to do now that we've finished our defaults is we're going to use this forward arrow at the top. This is how you navigate back and forth with this forward and backward arrow. And we're going to just click forward all the way over until we see a tab that says input, and we're going to click on that. That's how you start the report after you've set up your defaults. Alright, so what you're going to see here, you have the subject address. This comes from the report, of course, so we just grab it and enter it here. If you don't have the assessor, parcel, or legal already filled out in the report, we can retrieve that for you and we will put it in the report if it's not already there. You'll see another video here. This video is a bit outdated, so you can just refer back to this webinar at appraisergenie.com. Just click on the training tab. You can use this video though. Andy, he's the appraiser. He narrates this from start to end. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is you just follow the page top going down. We're going to enter the effective date of the report. There's a calendar, so just click on the drop down. We're going to go with today. We're going to move to this, select the form you're using. I'm using a single family 1004 UAD, so I'm going to click this one. Now the MLS acronym that's entered here because I set that up in my defaults. So if you're an appraiser who uses more than one MLS, you can just use this drop down and click on whichever one you're using for this particular report. Okay, now cost approach. The reason there is a yes or no option is if cost approach is not required in the report, you can select no. Either way you get the documentation and support, but we don't have to fill it out in the report if not needed, or you can leave it on yes. These are also optional, the REO addendum, the quantitative REO, and the listing addendum. Listing addendum simply means if you want the actives you choose to go on their own grid instead of with the solds, you can just check this and we'll make a whole new addendum for them. Okay, so this next section, basically, as stated earlier, we designed Appraiser Genie to analyze the full neighborhood. So you would log into your MLS, create a neighborhood search based on whatever subject, so mine would be this one. Search within the last year or at least the last year. You can go over, grab your sold, actives, pendings, all your statuses. You can search by subdivision, zip code, draw it. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you're defining the neighborhood there, because later on when you import that file into Genie, you're going to use these narrowing parameters that kick out any outliers, and it also produces your true comp search. So for example, if you want the comparable properties within 25% of the subject site size, the comparables have to be within 25% of the subject plus or minus, or they will not be in your true comp search, thus you can't choose them for your report. So I'm going to leave that as a 0. Stories, it's plus or minus whatever number you put here. So if your subject has 2 stories and you put a 1 there, we'll return as high as 3 stories. Anything outside of that 3 will not be a true comp. If you leave a 0 here, The 0 just means we're not going to narrow it by that particular parameter. So if you leave site size as a 0, we're not going to narrow it by site size. If you put an equal here, you're telling Appraiser Genie that you want the subject to have the same site size as the comps. That's not realistic, so a better thing would probably be stories, where the subject has 2 stories and you only want comparables with 2 stories. So for this demo, I will go ahead and just put something here. I'm going to tell Genie I want comps within 10 years of my subject, plus or minus. This will save as a default, so the next time I launch it, I'll see a 10 here, but I can override it as needed. Okay, this reconciliation weighting, this is scoring 1 through 10 between the 3 approaches. You have cost approach, sales comparison, and income approach. I put a 10 here, which is what most appraisers do, and that's just saying I'm putting the full weight on sales comparison approach. You can put an 8 here and maybe a 2 here, however you want, just needs to add up to 10. Highest and best use, your top use is residential, below is residential. Multifamily defaults is shown, but if that's not applicable, just click the down arrow and click on this top blank space and it gets rid of it. Okay, now this section, land comp sales, if the appraiser has raw land value that needs to be, or raw land data that needs to be reconciled, you can enter the address, sales price, site size, all this information manually. If it doesn't apply, you can leave it alone, just leave it blank, because we'll still use the extraction or allocation method for the land value. Most appraisers don't enter anything in here, but it's up to you. Okay, square foot method. These boxes, anything that's green, that means you can enter your own information. This is generally, if you subscribe to Marshall and Swift, you can enter their information, just transfer it here. But you definitely don't have to use that because we auto-complete this area with buildingcosts.net. So you can leave this blank. This Q4, that's been grabbed from your total report. That's very important to buildingcosts.net. So before you do anything, make sure you're assigning the correct quality to the subject, or your adjustments can be too high or too low. You don't have to type that in. That was just pulled for you. Okay, so we'll scroll all the way back to the top. Now there's a button that indicates Start New Report. When you click on this button, we pull up your File Explorer because this is the point that you would grab that MLS neighborhood search file that you've saved to your computer. So mine is right here. So all I'm going to do is double click on that. If you're confused on this process, it's very easy. 99% of MLSs have an export button, so after you do your search, you click on export. And then the MLSs that require a template bias, you'll have something in there labeled Appraiser Genie. Just make sure it shows as Appraiser Genie, and it's going to download that file to your computer. Most of the time it puts it in the download folder. You just go to wherever it is, and then we're going to double click on this. So this is my MLS export. I'm going to double click on it. So we're scrubbing that file now. We're making sure there's nothing non-UAD compliant. We're also going to take this age I put here as 10 years and we're going to narrow it out. You're going to get a subject information box. Now this box, all we did is we transferred this column right here from your MLS. So all this, or your export. So all this information you see here, this is what should show right here in Appraiser Genie. Your job is to look through this, make sure this is right. This information gets sent to buildingcosts.net, so it is important that it's accurate. If quality wasn't entered, you have to select a quality. Anything with an asterisk has to be entered. So what you could do is you look through this. If everything looks right, all you do is click on Next at the bottom of this button. Now we're grading and sorting the comparables. So this box here, you will never see this. This is just for me. You're going to see this page here. The file I started with from the MLS had about 114 comps in it. So you're going to notice at the top here you have a counter. It tells you what the status is, 9 active, 34 sold, 1 pending. So because I put an age parameter out of the 114, it took me down to 44 comparables. So the 44 out of this the solds and the actives, those comprise of my 1004MC. So as you saw, you don't need to narrow it in the MLS. You use the parameters that were on the input page, and that's going to kick out any outliers that your MLS would have kicked out anyway if you had narrowed it the same way. So this narrowed search, this is your true comp search. So all the comparable properties that are listed here, these are your true comparables, and out of this list you would choose the addresses or the comparables you want for your report. A few more things to show you guys. Earlier when I advised you, you can reorder the columns on your defaults page. This is what I was referring to. If you grab the bottom horizontal bar, there's a lot of information here. You can go as far over as you want. If I was looking for subdivision or something that's way down here, every time I'd have to scroll over. So you might as well just set that field as a default and just have it show up here automatically. You can reorder them however you want. I've already set mine the way I want it. For example, I want the GLA right here, and I want the subdivision and the site. So that's why you would set defaults to kind of show this information the way you want to see it. Hey, it is important to note that we do actually order this for you. Starting at the top going down, we start with closest proximity to your subject, then most recently sold, then least adjusted. So if you'll notice, here is my subject. It was actually in that MLS search, so that's why that address is here, 2619. So obviously I'm not going to choose that for the report, so I'm going to move down here. You can reorder these columns. For example, GLA, let's say you want it lowest to highest or highest to lowest. You can click on the column header. It's going to give you a little load box, and it's going to start lowest to highest, or if I click it again, it'll go highest to lowest. So you can change that default ordering if you prefer, to order it by something else. You can do it alphabetically, for example. You can click on subdivision, and it starts with the B's. So these were added by you guys. You guys suggested that we add more functionality to this page. If you have anything else that would help you, definitely let us know. There are a couple buttons at the top here. So when I clicked on GLA, it actually took away the ordering we had it in. So if you do click around and change things and you want to revert back to the way we had it, you can click on Reset Sort Order, and it's just going to put it back in the ordering we had initially. So there's my subject again. If you click on subject, this just brings the subject box back up. So if you don't want to, come down here, click on this, and then look at your subject information, just click on that box, and then it just populates it here for like a quick reference. Okay, so this delete selected comps, theoretically, you shouldn't have any outliers in this list if you're taking advantage of narrowing it down. But if one does end up in here and you feel like it shouldn't be in the true comp search, you can click on the address. For example, let's say we didn't want this 2904 South Ewing. You can click delete selected comps. And if you click on yes here, it's actually going to kick it out of this list. It doesn't kick it out of the neighborhood search, but it will kick it out of the true comp search, so it doesn't affect it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just choose some comparable properties we want to use. So I'm going to go with our default ordering and choose the top 3. And we're going to go ahead and click next. Okay, so what we're doing now, we're typing the comparables. We're basically taking the 3 I chose, and we're going to move it to our side-by-side page, which should look just like the report, which I will show you. Okay, so just like this report here on page 2, on the left you have your subject, and you have all the subject information here. Same thing in Genie. On the left you have the subject address, and you scroll down, and all this information that you see here is exactly this information here. We just map it over. So you can make changes to any of this. If you did know the subject's design, you can actually click this little blue question mark. There's a menu, and let's just say this should be traditional. If you hover over it, you'll have a picture. So There's a ton of stuff in here I've never seen before, so you can just click on them. We're just going to click on traditional, and we hit done. Now as you see, it populated traditional in here. What you can do if this works, if you hit traditional or let it type in, if you click on F2, what it's going to do, if you look over, it's going to map traditional across to all the comps. That way you don't have to manually type in traditional for all of these if you know they're traditional. So just like any spreadsheet, it does have the F2 capability where you can just map it over. I'll show you another example in a minute. Okay, so back to the report here. Here are your addresses, of course, your comparable properties. It's the same thing here on this side-by-side. Here's cell 1, so this is the first address, 2519 Maryland. And we just use this horizontal bar down there. Okay, here's cell 2, here's the second address, and cell 3. So it should not look that much different than the report. The only difference is in the middle here, you have this adjustment header, and you have match pairs, allocation, extraction, and regression. All the adjustments we give you are just within this middle column, so you can see your subject to the left and then your comparables to the right. Any columns that are highlighted pink earlier when you chose the default source for site, age, GLA, whatever it was, I had put public for site. So automatically Genie went with public information to fill out my comps site field. So that means pink. Now to know where you are, as I was referring to these black fields over here, they tell you where you are. So for example, site, if you look right here, this is my subject site. If you look straight across the page, this is site, and look up, this is for 2519 Maryland. And you just move straight across the page. Here's your second site, and that is for 2904 South Ewing. So it's not hard to navigate. Just look at it horizontally, and then you'll know where you are. So the first thing you would do before you actually choose any adjustments, you would want to look through your comparables. If anything's blank, but you know that information, you just can quickly enter it here, and we'll fill it out in the report. So anything you know in here you can change. Most of this we pull for you, but some MLSs may or may not give us basement information, heating and cooling, that sort of thing. That's why we give you guys a chance to edit anything here so we can complete as much as we can for you. Okay, so the next thing you would do is you would want to go ahead and select on any adjustments you would like to use. And very easily, refer back to this adjustment header. Right here indicates subject site value. So this is your land value for your comparables and your subject. So we're going to go down. If you want an age adjustment, we provide that. We also provide bath, GLA, if we can retrieve this information, basement, heating and cooling, garage, carport, covered patio, fireplace, fence, and pool. So there's quite a few adjustments we give you guys. You don't have to use them all, but they're here. And you'll get all this information regardless if you actually use them in the report. Okay, so in order to actually have the adjustment entered into the grid for you, as you see, this is a time per month adjustment. So match pairs is blank and allocations blank, but you do have a value here in this extraction field. So if we want to use this time per month adjustment, we click on the box, it's going to turn blue. And then straight across the settlement date for each comp, you have the adjustment. So that's 13/5. There's the settlement date for this comp. There's the adjustment here. And same thing, settlement date, adjustment. Site, same thing. For allocation, this is the total land value, 43,400. Extraction was 48,000. And regression indicates a negative 32,000. Unless you have a pretty large data set or at least 100 sold comps within that narrowed search, your regression is going to be odd, basically speaking. So I don't recommend you use regression unless, one, you understand it, or B, it produces an accurate adjustment. You'll still have the support documentation for it, but if you don't choose it, it is a good way of saying, you know, I considered regression, but it wasn't accurate, so I chose extraction or allocation. Now you'll notice when I hover up top, all of these tabs, you can actually click on them now. After you get to this point, all the information has already been ran, so what you can do is if you're looking at this site adjustment here and you want more information on this number, 43,000 or 48,000, well, site relates to land, so we can click on land. We're going to scroll down, and what you'll see in the middle is land extraction method. So you'll have all this information automatically placed in the work file. If you use another software, it's a little bit different, but for total, it's through a work file. And this last section here, this land allocation method, what we do here is we take the assessor total value, the assessor improvement value, and the assessor land value. You'll notice these boxes you can actually edit. We pull this information from the assessor, but if we can't retrieve it, then there won't be anything here to say 0. So if all this information was 0, then you would not have an land allocation adjustment. But what you can do is, let's say for the subject, you knew the information or you looked it up. All you do is transfer that information here. Same thing for the comps. And then we will produce the allocation land adjustment for you, 43.4. So you may have to edit a couple of fields on your own, but that's much quicker, and you still get all this support for anything you do in here. Now we can look at a few more pages. Let's look at reconcile. Same thing. Every single one of these pages I'm clicking on up here, we will give you guys a PDF version. So we break down the weighted by quantity of adjustments, weighted by net dollars, weighted by gross dollar, and then of course the analysis. So you see here this sales comparison quality. I put the 10 under reconciled value earlier on the input page, so it put the 10 there indicating the full weighting on sales comparison approach, and it gave me the sales comparison approach value. Okay, so if you do venture out and look at these additional tabs to get back to the adjustments, we're going to click on this side-by-side tab, and that's going to take us back to the grid. Okay, so let's say that this site adjustment for allocation was accurate. We're just going to click on this. It's going to turn blue. And as you see, here's my site, and directly across there's the first adjustment, second, and of course the third if applicable. I did enter a site size variance, or I thought I did, but either way, this is 7545 and this is 7548. There would not be an adjustment there. Okay, so if you don't click on them, that's fine. As stated, you'll still get all this support. We're just not going to put the adjustment in the grid. So for example, if you don't click on this 600 here for age, you'll go through the PDFs and you'll get the support, but you're just not going to see an adjustment in the grid. So we can choose another one. Let's say we like this 24. It looks like both methods gave us the same number, so we're going to click on that. Okay, and here's the GLA, and right next to it there's the first comps adjustment. If you want to unclick, I have not found a way that if you unclick the box, it kicks it out. So I will pass that along to see if we can get that taken care of. We'll make sure to get that taken care of. But for now, if you do choose an adjustment that you no longer want, you can just delete it here, or very simply in the report grid, you can kick it out there. Okay, so heating and cooling looks like they all have heating and cooling, so I'm not going to deal with this one. And that looks good for now. As you'll see here, earlier in the defaults, I put fireplace in row 1, upgrades in row 2, and pool in row 3. So we just put that information here, and if we had any information about the subject, it would show here. That just means none, 0, 0. And a fireplace adjustment will automatically enter in this line. So the reason I have fireplace in row 1 upgrades in 2 and pull in 3 is that it lines up nicely as far as pull information, because we always put pull down here and we always have a fireplace adjustment right here. So let's say you had fireplace here, your adjustment's still going to go here. So you could put whatever you want in the middle field, that doesn't matter, but I recommend fireplace in row 1 and pull in row 3. Okay, so we're going to scroll up. I did want to show you guys one last thing, or a couple of things actually. In the middle of each comparable you choose, you have a header. It says Genie Peer Database. So if these comparable properties had already been ran through Appraiser Genie, they would have showed up here, and it would have said exactly what that field was for. So if we had the site information right here, it would have said the site information for this address here. And same thing going across. Now you should have noticed, or you might have noticed, right here it says Realtor in red and Tax in blue. If you click on this and your MLS gives us the list or sell agent information or remarks, we'll just transfer it here for a reference. Now we use public records, or excuse me, public remarks for this field here. And you can also click on tax, and if we can retrieve that information, we'll display it here. That's a pretty cool feature. You guys generally look that up anyway, so we'll just show it here for you. Alright, so that's all you really do on this page. If you get confused, as stated, just kind of reference your total report or your report in general, and it should look pretty close to the same minus this middle section. Okay, so what we do now when we're through selecting all the adjustments, we're going to go ahead and click Export to Report. It's going to give you this Preparing Reports box. We're just going to let it load. So it's going to export that information back into the report. Okay, so this data wizard, that's total specific. So if you use total, this is going to populate. We're of course going to want to merge into a currently open report. If you click on Create New, we're just going to make an entirely new report for you with our information only. So we will click this. We're going to want to replace the data in my open report with the imported. If you have a sketch, check that. If not, don't check it. And then we're going to click on Import. Alright, so as you see down here, total, it highlights itself orange. That just indicates to you that the transfer was successful. So what we're going to do now is, you see Genie's still open. It says, did your report export correctly? As long as you wait for that data wizard to pop up, and when you see total highlighted yellow, we can go ahead and click yes. Okay, so we're done. Everything in Appraiser Genie is already taken care of, exported for you, so we're going to close this window. Alright, so we're going to go back to the report. I'm going to click on side by side so we can see them all a little bit better. Okay, so all this information was entered. Anything that's highlighted red generally means we have partial information, so we could pull that it was detached and it had 1.5 stories, but if we don't have the design, it's going to be blank. This one we did pull. So we got detached, 1-story, A-frame. Any adjustments I clicked on in Appraiser Genie are automatically put here. The ones I did not click on are not here. Okay, so fireplace was here, upgrades pull. So here we have our fireplace here. Upgrades are kind of tricky. We kind of scan for the remark field to pull upgrade information. So this comp indicated granite countertop was used. If they put like a boat, a workshop, anything that indicates an upgrade, we'll just put it back in the report if we can find it, which generally we can find a lot of that information for you. Same thing with pull. If your MLS gives us pull information, then we'll fill it in for you, or we'll put none if there wasn't a pull. Same thing with fireplace or upgrades. Okay, so we'll put the data source in there as well and the date. Now keep in mind, the grid may or may not be perfect. It just depends on your MLS and the information they provide us. If they don't put any kind of information as far as heating and cooling or maybe garage, yours could be blank here, just because we can only pull what we have. But you can actually just manually enter it real quick into Appraiser Genie, and it will export this here for you. Interest is a pretty good MLS, so we have a lot entered here. We're going to click back on Forms. We're going to go down to Market Conditions Addendum. So you'll see this is all filled out for you. The boxes are checked. You have the verbiage here. Same thing with REO information. We can populate the REO comments if there are foreclosure sales, and we'll put that in here as well. Okay, so cost approach. What we put here is buildingcost.net, and then whatever quality rating you assign, we'll put their quality rating or what they use. And then of course the effective date is going to be the month and the year. This is what we fill out. We don't have the as-is value of site improvements. Of course that's going to be subjective or something you would need to see yourself. Same thing with this one. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys where all of the work file information is. So we're going to click on work file. If you don't use total, we automatically create a folder for you. It'll be labeled Appraiser Genie, and then within that folder, every report you run through the Genie will have its own information like you see here. All of these PDFs, these come from all of the tabs in Appraiser Genie. So here's an example of a graph. I just clicked on one. This is the quarter closed sales with days on market. So the lines will indicate the trends, of course, and then the circles are the actual data. We have absolutely everything you've done in Appraiser Genie here. Click cancel. This is depreciation. We give you the full effective age calculation, remaining economic life, of course the extraction of depreciation from your comparables. We give you the average annual rate. We can click on extraction. You will get the full information. Now, as you see, for the column behind it, we have a character. So GLA is going to be A. Any math that's required, we will show you the formula. So for this one, we just took A, which is GLA, times B, plus C times D. It's very easy to read. Just use the characters here. Site size variance, the diminishing return. Regression's a fun one. I'm not going to attempt to explain that because I didn't sign up for math for a reason. I don't understand it. You guys can very easily find the information as far as this, but if you do use regression, we tell you what the data set was. So every address, every comparable that was considered in that adjustment, we list it all here. So that should help. And of course you have a coefficient table. Okay, so I'll just click on a few more here. Allocation, that one's pretty neat. As you'll see, you're going to have an allocation percentage of total value. What we do is these percentages for site, GLA, garage, interior, exterior, these are predetermined percentages that we get from buildingcost.net. So what we do is we take this average dollar per square foot, which was $115, that's market driven. We just take that into the percentage. So for example, GLA is 62%, you figure that into 115, and that's why on the side-by-side you saw a $71 per square foot allocation adjustment. Same thing with the remainder. There's $21 per square foot for garage, or for a garage space it was $2,900. It's pretty broken down. If you need to know anything as far as full bath, half bath, heating and cooling, appliances, it's all here. All the percentages and everything's in here for you. Okay, so if you guys want to know how to actually put one of these in the report, let's say you wanted the allocation to actually be in the report, you can click on it, go to Insert as Page, you just title the form whatever it is. This one's going to be allocation. I think I spelled that right, yeah. And then we'll click OK. Alright, so if we click back on Forms, at the very bottom here in your report contents, we have the allocation page. So it's very easy to actually put these in the report, or you can leave them in the work file, whatever works for you. I do recommend you guys actually take advantage of and look at these PDFs. They're pretty extensive, but they definitely back you up and support you with everything you do. Hey, do you guys have any questions for me? just use the chat
Yes, I
feature.
do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was inquiring about the Genie peer data. How? So are you saying that in my given market, if there's another appraiser using Genie, that information would show up in when I'm maybe in that same neighborhood?
Right, as a reference, or when you yourself use Appraiser Genie, and let's say you go back through and you end up using that one address more than once, we'll show you which you used the last time in Genie for that address. So it's a reference for you, really.
So what about a peer's information?
No, it's nothing specific to anyone. It's for your reference. So when you use these comps through Appraiser Genie, the next time if you use the same ones, you'll see it as a reference. That's what we mean by peer database.
Well, the word peer indicates someone else besides myself.
Right, it does reflect for them as well. That's correct.
So if I if I had measured a subject property and you put it into Genie, and then someone uses that as a comparable, so my square footage would show up.
Right, it'll just show up next to it. It'll just show the site value and whatever that was, 3,200, 1,500. You can actually type over it too. In the peer database, if you were to use the peer database and you wanted to enter your own value, you could type over that. But yes, that will show up.
So actually, the data that one puts into Genie becomes part of a shared database.
Right, for Genie users only. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is correct. Now, anything outside of that, you can't see it, of course. It's just for internal use, and it's mainly for a reference. But like I said, you could type in your own value, and the next time you were to come into it in Appraiser Genie, you'll see what you typed.
But what about condition rating by another appraiser? If I happen to use the same sale, it's going to show what condition rating that person had?
Yeah, I would show that, but to be honest, I don't really see most people put a quality rating, and the reason why is we don't actually pull quality or condition because we have no way to. So most appraisers will put the quality or condition in their report after they've used Genie, but yes, if they did take the time to correct the quality rating and assign it in Appraiser Genie, then they would see the Q4 or Q3 or whatever you assign quality or condition.
So if appraiser A put that information in there and then appraiser B comes along, then appraiser B could see what appraiser A did as far as condition rating goes.
Exactly. That is correct.
That's a USPAP violation. So.
Well, it's also going to be subjective, though. You would still make sure that's correct before you even actually used it. It's merely a reference. We have no way to determine that that's even an accurate quality. So you would make sure that is applicable. It's just for a reference. It's to save how much you guys have to manually enter. But as stated in our terms of service, this is all important information that you need to verify is accurate to begin with.
Oh yeah, well I'm not saying that I agree with USPAP.
Right.
I'm just saying that unfortunately that happens. Sharing that rating with a peer happens to be a result of an appraisal, which is they consider that unfortunately wrong at this point. But anyway, all right, thanks.
Oh, no problem, not a problem. No, it's,
I have a question
sure.
regarding, I use the Genie a little bit differently. I use the Genie before I go out into the field. In other words, I pull public record on the property that I'm appraising, and then in order to shoot the comps that I'm going to use in my property, I use Appraiser Genie to kind of give me an array of data, and I'll put on maybe 12 comps, and I'll choose what I think are the best looking comps based on what I drove past. And then I will come back to the office and I'll go through the rest of the process. But I don't know. I don't think most appraisers would be able to even make adjustments on the property until they've seen the property. That's number one. And number two, it would be if Genie pulls different comps than I did, then I'd have to go back out and shoot new comp photos. So that's why I kind of do it ahead of time. Have you heard of that, doing it that way before?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard of it two ways, and the reason why I've heard of it two ways is you can, if you've already inspected the subject, that means you're going to have a lot of accurate information, and we won't have to rely on so much as far as the subject with public records, because there is an alternative method as far as using the Genie, which will probably answer your question. So give me 1 second. I'm going to show you the additional way. Okay, you guys probably can't see anything, right? It's just a blue screen.
That's correct.
Okay, well, looks like it's set to hide your icons, but I'll explain it. It's very easy. When you use Appraiser Genie, you actually are going to install an icon that's going to be on your desktop. When you click that icon, it's going to launch Appraiser Genie just like it did when you went through Total. The only difference is the subject information will not be in there. We added that because some appraisers wanted us to pull as much as we could for the subject initially. So you'll just type in the subject's street, address, and zip code. We're going to pull public records immediately for this information here. And then when you do your neighborhood search based on this subject, all you have to do, like mine, just make sure that subject's in that export, and then we'll fill in the rest with the MLS. So you can do it that way. You can pick your comparable properties within the Genie, just go out there and take pictures, or you can do it your way where you would want the subject already filled out so we can make sure this is all accurate, because the more information we have, the better. And you could already predetermine the comparables you want, and then you just choose the same ones in Genie. So it's honestly up to you how you do it.
Okay, thank you. And then what I did learn about doing it this way is that I'll search public records for comps as well, because sometimes the two disagree with each other. And what I'll do is I'll move the comps that I'm going to use in Appraiser Genie around so that you're not overwriting them. Anyway, that's just something that I've learned. But I do have a quick question.
I appreciate you sharing that, though, because I'm pretty sure everyone else was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so let's say public record gave me Maryland Avenue, all the Maryland Avenue comps, but it didn't give me Ewing Avenue. So what I do when I come, when I see that Appraiser Genie has something different than public records, is I'll leave comp 2 blank, and I'll just move things around after I decide which order I'm going to put my comps in, because I don't know that until I'm sitting down doing my analysis anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. You could, essentially, if you already had, like some, I had an appraiser earlier said they did most of their field work through Dropbox. So what they would do is they already had the comparable properties they wanted to use in their Dropbox, and they actually entered them here, just the address. And then they went through Appraiser Genie, of course, and chose the same comparables and filled out the rest. Or you can just manually enter it and then add additional comps from Appraiser Genie in here, because we won't overwrite these if you already have them provided. Just move them to the end.
Right. I do have a question. So in between the time that I set up Appraiser Genie originally and now, you've got a lot more input information, your setup information. For those of us existing users that need to go back in there and make some changes, how do we get back in there just to readjust our setup?
Okay, so we're going to, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to get back to Appraiser Genie, and I can't because my screen's blanked out. Okay, give me 1 second. What we're going to do is I'm just going to go back through there real quick, and I'll show you how you get to where you need to be if you need to modify your defaults. Because you're right, for a lot of older customers, you may not know about the additional benefits of the defaults page, so it's good to go back there, because you may or may not have some information entered into your grid, because like you said, we can't pull it. So those defaults help you fill out as much as we can. So what you'll do is it's going to launch, and all we're going to do is click this back arrow, and we're going to go all the way over to defaults. So you just click on defaults, and it's going to take you back here.
Great. Okay, that was an easy fix. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of
And I've been
course.
real happy. I've been real happy with the program. It's really saved time, and I detest filling out the MC addendum. So it's really nice to have at least all the numbers all filled out. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for your wonderful feedback. If you have any questions, just let us know, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, could I ask one more?
Sure.
I've already downloaded Genie, and I'm a total user, so you say I fill out that basic information, and then I go to the store,
Yep.
and then click on Appraiser Genie, and then take off from there. Is that?
Yeah. So you just click on launch, and we just go back to Appraiser Genie, which should be at the top of the partner products section. And then make sure you click on this if you haven't, because
Yes.
we want you to get the trials.
Right.
And then you'll enter your Alamo information. Now once you
Right.
enter that, it's going to say processing or whatever it says to confirm that you got the trial. So you can just go
Yes.
back over here and close the window out and close your dashboard.
Okay.
And then relaunch it.
Are you limited as to how much data you can extract from your MLS?
Up to 5 years.
Okay. And then, in theory, you really wouldn't have to necessarily integrate what Genie's come up with, but you could use the regression analysis and the extraction and all those mathematical models. You would have those in your work file.
Exactly, and you brought up a good point. You can use Appraiser Genie for as little or as much as you want to. You can use it strictly to get regression analysis and the support. You can use our adjustments. You can use it just to fill out the grid, the 1004. Whatever you want to do, it's all under the same subscription. So yes, sir, use it however you see fit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a total user myself, and I've been using Genie now, I think, for about 3 months. And I've found it to be definitely a time saver. So just a little tip to you on that. I went ahead and got the unlimited use because I found that I was using it enough to really substantiate it, whether it be for mortgage work or for court work. It's just been a real handy tool. And I don't throw in all the extra forms, but they're there when I need them to deal with review work if necessary. So anyway.
Anybody else have any questions? If you guys want to jump on or type a question, I'd be happy to answer them.
No questions, but thank you, Angelina.
Yeah, thank you.
Not a problem, you guys. I thank you for taking the time out. I will have this webinar posted to appraisergenie.com. Just click on the training page, and you can refer back to it if you need to.
Great. Thanks, Angelia.
Of course. Hey, thank you, guys. That wraps up our webinar. Hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.